Ja, und jetzt bin ich mal wieder dran und ich habe einen ganz besonderen Gast. Es sind irgendwie alle meine Gäste sind ganz besondere Gäste. Bei mir aber dieser ist wirklich was Besonderes und das ist auch das erste Mal, dass er wieder bei uns ist. Seit Covid, the last time you came to see us was before Covid. Nuno ist bei uns, der Filmemacher, Unterwasser-Kameramann, hat viel für BBC Blue Planet gedreht. Wenn Sie da was gesehen haben mit Orcas, dann war er das, Orcas in Norwegen. Jetzt sehen Sie gerade seine Aufnahmen und auch Aufnahmen, die wir jetzt hier zeigen, bei Our Oceans, Netflix, erzählt von Barack Obama. Also das ist wirklich ein Highlight für uns. Nuno, welcome back to our stage. You can hear that I've been singing your praises. And we're gonna talk about some of those images that you're bringing us every year. And what we're talking about today is from your home. Introduce yourself a little bit to the audience and tell us where are we going.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to be back here this year. Yeah, well, I studied to become a lawyer, and then halfway through my law degree, I took a diving course, and I fell in love with the ocean, and I pursued a career as an underwater photographer, and then I became a full-time underwater cameraman. And I wound up living in the islands of the Azores, and I lived there for 10 years, and that's how I got into the market of just being hired by BBC and Netflix and Disney and so on. And nowadays I travel a bit around the world. I live in mainland Portugal, but I still spend a lot of time in the Azores. And I thought I should come here and talk about the place I know best, which is the islands of the Azores.
Wir haben auch ein Video, dort können wir mit meinem Hintergrund ein bisschen reinschauen. We got some images from the Azores in the background. The Azores is a very special place. I think it's not far away, but yet not that many people have traveled there. It's just somehow not on the map of every person, every diver. But it's really a unique, natural place. It's a very wild place. Tell us a little bit about these islands, what makes them so special.
Well, the Azores is on the top of the mid-Atlantic ridge, so it's on the top of a massive chain of mountains that crosses the Atlantic. So it's like a hot spot for anything pelagic. So we have very deep waters very near the coast. Just 1 mile from the coast you can have depths of over 1,000 meters. So all the big migrating species crossing the Atlantic tend to gather in this oasis, either just stopping by to feed and so on, or some of them will come when the Gulf Stream comes further up north in the summer. So we have a very diverse kind of sea life that changes during the year. The Azores is very well known for some diving highlights. It's the best place in the world for diving with blue sharks. It's one of the top places in the world for aggregation of mobulas, the devil rays, Chilean devil rays. And it's very good for pelagic encounters. It also has about 1/3 of all the species of whales and dolphins that exist worldwide, from blue whales, sperm whales, and so on. So it's very, very diverse. We have 5 of the 7 species of turtles worldwide. So it's very diverse, very unpredictable, very wild. Some of these places, most of the days that I go out to film something, I usually wind up filming something else because you never know what's going to happen.
Something else is happening, yeah, right? Because you just don't know what you will encounter, but there is always something to see. Whale sharks as well, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. That's actually something super special, and there's some stuff that is only just being discovered not so long ago. We're going to talk a little bit about some very special event, something very unique that you saw, that actually we saw together, that you said to me you never seen before. What was that? Never seen before, never after. What was that?
Well, the encounters in the Azores depend a lot if it's a good bait year. We have different kind of baits that are eaten by different kinds of predators, and we can have amazing dives if there's quite a lot of bait in the water. It can be just a school of jacks or barracudas eating a small bait fish, or it can be something amazing like whale sharks, tunas, sharks, and so on. So if you can pass on maybe to the second video?
Yeah, let's see the second video.
So this was with Anna. It was in 2021, I think.
20 or 21,
yeah.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
And we were both in the Azores. This is the island of Fayal that you can see in the background. So we were off of the coast between Pico and Fayal, and we had these encounters with bait balls. we didn't know what they were yet. We only saw when we would arrive, we'd see a lot of these birds called horseshoe waters flying around, and that's a sign when you see the disturbed water over there and birds flying around. That's a sign that someone's eating in the water, eating a bait ball. So we got into the water, and this was the first thing we saw. This is Anna freediving.
And that was unbelievable. Like really, it was like a wall of fish, a universe of fish. Insane.
Yeah, and the strange thing was, this is mackerel, and mackerel in the Azores is usually the one that's being eaten by tunas or by dolphins. But actually, these guys were the ones that were eating other fish in this situation. So the predator became a prey. Or
That's right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So it took a while for us to understand how this whole story happened. Sometimes we would jump in the water, only the mackerel would be there, and everything, there would be leftovers of dead fish, and we wouldn't understand what was happening. But we started to go out every morning, very early, to see what we would see. And finally we understood that these guys were eating a small fish called snipefish. Maybe we can pass on to the next video.
Yeah, we're going to look at this one, and this is actually a bait ball, which is also why it's called bait ball, because they actually make this round shape. And why do they do that?
Well, there's one technique that usually it looks very stupid, that all the fish would stick together and be eaten more easily. But what we did watch in the water several times is, this is a bait ball of snipefish, and the mackerel are around it. And they're starting to surround it. But a lot of times the bait would get compressed into a ball, and the fish would start thinking, this is something very big, a lot bigger than me, and maybe I should be afraid of this thing. And would mistake the ball with a whale shark or whatever, and would be scared and go away. And that's what actually is happening right here.
Yeah, you can really see it, right? The mackerel are looking, but then now they've all disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah, until one of them gets brave enough to take a bite.
Exactly.
And that's when it all starts.
Yeah, and when they break off, you can see here they're breaking into two different bait balls. Usually, the bait, in this situation, the bait ball, if it goes down, all the mackerel go around it, chasing it, and they get completely eaten. It's very strange how they kind of almost melt in. They look like they're kind of liquid. Yeah. Yeah. So you see these guys, they're gone. The ones that were able to stay at the surface and keep shifting their shape would usually survive. We took off our drone, and this is how it looks from the top. We were talking about, I don't know, maybe tens of thousands of mackerel that would go crazy when they were starting this feeding frenzy. And then this surprise happened, which was there was blue sharks also trying to eat the snipefish. Whenever the mackerel had the snipefish all compressed into a very tight ball, the blue sharks would come in and smash into the bait ball. And it was actually very, very surprising for us, because sometimes the blue sharks would come and smash into us and be a bit aggressive. And I've dived hundreds of times with blue sharks, and they're so, relaxed and not aggressive at all. And then we realized that the blue shark would come from the deep and see this shape, this compact shape on the surface, and they would think we were a bait ball as well, so they would just ram into us. But after they understood that, after they touch us and look at us for a while, they would understand we're not food, and then they would just circle around.
Well, we had to get you a safety diver, because you have to imagine, here is Nuno with his big camera, and he's looking and filming, and he has to keep everything in focus, and then there are these blue sharks coming from underneath, coming from behind. And the sharks are not stupid, they don't come from the front, they come from behind where you can't see them. So he couldn't see the shark coming, and we literally had to have a diver in the water who was bodyguarding Nuno, and his only job was to push the sharks off. That was pretty wild, I have to say.
Yeah, true. So the interesting thing is, this all happened in one summer. This was in the beginning of the summer, I think June, July.
End of June, yeah. July, yeah.
And in the Azores, we have kind of coldish waters until late June, the beginning of July, and then the water gets visibility gets very good, and
it's warmer.
The water temperature increases a lot, from like 18, 19 degrees to
20.
25. And that's when the high season starts, which is July to around September, October. And So we got this story happening when the water was still a little bit cold, the visibility wasn't amazing, and then maybe a month and a half later, something amazing happened. Maybe we can put the last video on, which was another predator came in to eat these massive bait balls of snipefish, which were whale sharks. The Azores is the only place in Europe where we have a big population of whale sharks, and it's the only place in the world where whale sharks and tunas migrate together, and the whale shark uses the help of tunas to be able to feed off of bait balls.
There's a partnership that the whale sharks and the tunas have going on together, and this is something unique to the Azores, or at least it's not been documented anywhere else, and it's something that you didn't even know about until you kind of stumbled. The fishermen always knew this, and I think that's also really fascinating. They already knew this for decades, but nobody else did.
Yeah, that's how we heard about this story, was the fishermen told us about this thing they called pintados, which means a thing with spots on their backs. And we had to be a lot in the water until we realized what was actually happening. And basically the whale shark is too slow to be able to eat this bait ball. So what it does, it has this escort of tunas, and whenever it finds the bait ball, it'll stop and let the tunas go start feeding. Right here you see the tunas are doing this frenzy on the surface and feeding off the bait ball. When the bait ball is captured at the surface and can't run away, then the whale shark will go into the bait ball and start eating it like a few hundred or a few thousand at the time, while the tuna keep it in one place where it can't run away. Otherwise, the whale shark on its own would...
Look at it, it has its head stuck inside, like literally. The tuna are all going, hang on a minute, that's our food. I mean, that's how that looks to me.
And it's so crazy, because you have from little tuna this big, like bonitos, to 300 kilo bluefin tunas coming in and smashing into the bait ball. And so it's a very...
Just to get an idea, you just sort of say really casually, 300 kilo tuna, you know, how big is a 300 kilo tuna?
A tuna is about from here to the beginning of the screen, and very wide it is.
It's bigger than a dolphin.
Yeah, bigger than a dolphin.
Big.
Like a small car.
It's fast.
Yeah, tremendously fast. We're all watching this in slow motion actually. Here you can see he's already golfing into the there's a little fish still coming out of his mouth. So he's having a good feed.
Some little fish escaped.
Exactly. And then here you can see the bluefins will start coming in while the small yellowfin are keeping the bait ball in place. These are
here's the big guys.
If you compare these tunas with the ones that are in the back, they're massive tunas.
So the question now is, why did this kind of partnership develop? And you said to me, okay, you know, it's clear why the whale shark might do it, but the question is that remains unanswered maybe, is why do the tunas, what do they get out of it? That's
the strange thing, is you can't really understand what the advantage is for the whale shark. The whale shark needs the tunas to feed. The tunas doesn't need, and right here, we were filming with the drone, and suddenly something popped up on the left side over there. It was actually a sei whale. And the sei whale heard about the action, so she came out to check it out. We got into the water. It was a super calm sei whale. She passed several times for like 3 or 4 meters from us. And she kept surrounding, waiting for her opportunity to get into the action. And when the whale shark went away for a few minutes, she just smashed into the bait ball and pretty much ate the whole bait ball in one gulp. And then the show was over.
So yeah, the question remains is, why do the tuna hang out with the whale sharks? Because they could eat the bait ball by themselves. They don't really need the whale shark. That's a good
true,
question,
yeah.
no?
It's a good question, and the scientists, that's the whale
going for it.
coming
Crazy.
in for the feed. And I've been working for 10 years, 11 years with scientists in the Azores from the university, and we've put satellite tags on these whale sharks. We've figured out finally where they come from and where they go to after this. They come from Central America, and we've even put cameras on the whale sharks to try to figure out a bit about their life. And but that's still a big mystery. Why would the tuna need the whale shark? Maybe just for protection. It's true that tunas like to hang around slow-moving things. If you have something floating in the ocean or whatever, a lot of times you'll have a lot of tuna around it. So still a little bit of a mystery to tell
Yeah,
that story.
I mean, some riddles remain, no, to still be figured out. Maybe you can tell us about it next year when you know more. Also, the question is, the fisherman, and I've seen this before in your images, actually is almost a partnership between three species, because the tuna, the whale shark, and the fisherman as well. Because the fishermen know when the whale sharks turn up, there's good fishing. So they actually use that as well as an indication.
Yeah, definitely. And it's cool because in the Azores, the tuna fishing is all done by hand. So it's a pole with the line, and there's 0% bycatch, and they have a very good relationship with the whale sharks because they know if anyone harasses the whale sharks, they'll run away, and then there's no more tuna. So it's a very kind of nice and ecological story of how they're catching tuna by hand with no bycatch, and then depending on the world's biggest fish to tell them where the tunas are.
It's super beautiful, and it's obviously also something that there is a migration, and sometimes it's bigger and sometimes it's smaller. There's also resident whale sharks. If people want to go and see the whale sharks of the Azores, visit the Azores, what are the best times of the year, and what can we see, around? Because it's almost like the species cycle, and there's always a highlight. Give us an idea.
Yeah, well, basically there's two hotspots for whale sharks in the Azores. One is Santa Maria Island, which is the southernmost island, and the other one is off the southern coast of Pico Island. And then sometimes you have stuff happening like this. Last summer we had a couple of whale sharks in Princess Alice, which is a very famous, it's probably the most famous diving spot in the Azores. It's a small seamount off the coast of Fayal. It's about 40 miles from the coast, and we had whale sharks there every single day. Not with the tunas feeding, but every single day. So I would say 15th of July to late September, Santa Maria or Pico Island.
Incredible spectacle of nature. It's a really wild place. Those in the audience who maybe saw a documentary with the astronaut Alexander Gerst, he visited certain places around the world, and in the Azores actually dived with a submarine to 1,000 meters, and he also dived on the seamount Princess Alice Banks with mobilas, and the person who filmed them doing that is actually Nuno, and it was happening while I was there, so we got to go out with Alexander Gerst and have a burger, and he was telling us what it's like to be on the space station. And it's not so different than going 1,000 meters down into the ocean, right? You're almost as far away from everything. Thank you very much for being here and bringing us these stunning images, and I can't wait to see what you have for us next year. And check out Our Oceans on Netflix, narrated by Barack Obama, with footage of Nuno. Which episode is it?
It's
this footage in?
Atlantic episode, and this story with the whale sharks is part of that episode.
He also filmed in Antarctica, by the way, so there's more of Nuno to see in that series. Thank you very much for these stunning images, and it was a great memory for me as well, for those dives we did together. Thank you, Nuno.
Thanks so much. Thank you.